Our final segment today highlights another organization that you're probably already familiar with, especially around Thanksgiving with the Drumstick Dash, the Rescue Mission of Roanoke. We're so pleased to welcome CEO Lee Clark to the table today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. It's good to be here.
Yeah, so glad to have you. So I wanted to first talk about your story and background, if you don't mind kind of explaining how you grew into the role that you're in today.
Oh, my goodness. I feel like it's an ongoing growth. I mean, I'm just like, you're never really prepared for the work that we do. Our organization's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I got started as a volunteer like a lot of folks do. So I started as a volunteer at the time. So weird story, I'm a CPA. I started here in Roanoke 37 years ago. Okay. Worked for Brown Edwards and Company here in town. Mm-hmm. Great organization. I love them. Still keep in touch with folks there. Went from there to the Roanoke Times, and I was controller, managed the accounting department, and then moved into sales and marketing. And sort of had this weird background. And during that season of my life, I started volunteering at the Rescue Mission and ended up joining the staff and was director of development for about 10 years. Left there at a time when it was sort of a next step for me to join the American Red Cross. I was the regional chief operating officer for Virginia. So I traveled all over Virginia with Red Cross and learned so much that I was able to bring back to the Rescue Mission in 2017. In January 2017, I've been in this role now as CEO for a little over 6 years.
Wow, feels like yesterday and forever ago, right?
It does, absolutely.
Perfect. Well, that's so interesting. Melissa was talking about how her background is sort of like biology and, then she ends up in the role she's in today. I love that so many people talk about it's not a major career change, right? It almost seems like it was meant to be. It's all led to this
all
moment.
Works together.
Yeah. So that's great. And so if you don't mind kind of giving a brief, I want to talk about the Rescue Mission and everything that you're doing. I think it's really important to launch this entire discussion with stating that homelessness is never black and white. No one plans for this. No one wants this. There are any number of reasons that contribute to homelessness. Melissa pointed out there's mental issues and things like that take place. Matt Cruikshank, he is the Roanoke City's Human Services Administrator. He pointed out in our feature in the May-June issue that COVID-19, that pandemic, really exacerbated mental health issues and substance abuse in the community, which of course contributed to the increasing number of homelessness. In addition, the rising cost of housing, utilities, and food are all factors that can lead to this trend. So over the course of 2021, and this is from the time of print that we had, so you might have updated numbers, but in 2021, 1,748 unique individuals were given temporary housing by your shelter.
Yes.
And, the Rescue Mission currently has an average of about 250 individuals staying at the shelter each night. Is that correct?
That is correct. And that's men, women, and children.
Right.
We have almost a campus of buildings there on 4th Street and Southeast where we have our main building that has our food services. Meals are open to everyone. So you could be staying in our shelter and eat with us, or you could be housed in the community and just be food insecure and not sure where your meal's coming from.
I really want to talk about that later because I think that's a great way to connect the public to people that they see but don't necessarily think of.
Absolutely. You've got that main building with the men's shelter, and then you have a women and children's center for a separate building that is set up for single women or families with kids. And so it's really that 250 a night, that a little over 1,700 last year, different individuals that came through our doors.
Wow. I mean, that's a lot of people that you're helping. And so a brief overview, you do a lot of things for the community. You've talked about meals, so providing meals, emergency shelter, recovery programs, grocery boxes, medical care to those who need it. It's barely scratching the surface. I mean, you guys do so much.
It really is. The medical care has been so key. And, Matt pointed out earlier about the issues around addiction or mental health. We found that having the clinic on site there at the Rescue Mission, the Fralin Free Clinic, has been tremendous asset to really, again, help us meet people right where they are, provide for those issues that might be keeping them out of a safe place. And so really dealing with anxiety, mental illness, addiction, whatever it might be, to help them into a healthy life.
Right, absolutely. And so in talking about other things that you offer, what don't we know? What might we be surprised to learn today?
I think one of the surprising things that I really try to point out to people, especially over these last couple of years when there were so many shutdowns and there were curtails of services and people cutting back or closing, the Rescue Mission never closes. We're open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So we literally never close. And so we're always there for people who are in crisis, always there to provide a safe place, always there to provide the counseling, the help, the direction to move forward in a healthy way. And so I think that's one of the things that those of us in our, kind of normal routine of life, you've got your cycle of going to the grocery store and to work and, that sort of routine of your day. You don't think about there being an organization like the Rescue Mission that never closes. It's always there for people in crisis, ready to meet them right where they are.
Really? I mean, you must not sleep. You just have to be there all the time, right?
No. We have a wonderful team and are always there making sure that our team is equipped and trained and ready to go.
Yep. So one thing I learned in researching about what you do for our piece is you also recently launched a podcast like we did.
Yes.
So I loved how you're sharing the stories, not just from your staff and your volunteers, but also the guests. I think that's really important in sharpening the issue to people who might not otherwise understand the experiences that they go through.
Well, Liz, you opened this with the idea that it's complicated, it's not black and white. Mm-hmm. And when you really hear people's stories, what you learn is that we're all pretty much alike. We're all just people. And some people have had different traumas or experiences or life. I sometimes hear the stories and wonder, how did you survive? How did you live through that and are here in front of me today, functioning, doing well, working, moving on to your next step? Because the stories you hear are just heartbreaking. Yeah. But they're all different. Everyone has a different story, and we just respect that and we honor that, and we really hear those stories and we build relationships with people.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing those stories. Again, I think it's critical for all of us to pitch in and figure out how we help listeners and viewers and readers connect with the people who need some resources and help. So Isla, she went in to tour the medical facility that the Rescue Mission has, and she, you only have so much room in 4 pages, right? It's hard to fit all the important stuff in, but we were wondering if you could expand on the medical services that are offered, how that helps a population that might be skeptical of seeking out medical care.
One of the things I love is that as an organization that's been around for 75 years, we were founded in 1948, downtown in the Market and the awful Arthur's Building downtown. Is just to think about having grown from that humble beginning to the comprehensive services that we offer today. And the clinic is such an important part of that because we continue to innovate, we continue to adapt, we continue to really work to meet people where they are, and the medical component is so important. About 1.5 years ago, we started Medical Street Outreach, where we literally recognized the growing numbers of people who during the pandemic were just unsheltered, just stuck in mental illness or addiction, and they weren't going to come inside anywhere. And so going out to meet them right where they were, providing basic medical care on the street. It's been interesting to adapt from expecting people to come to us to going out to meet people right where they are. We take case management to them. We take the medical care directly to them with the goal of getting them connected to resources. And we work with a lot of partners to do that. So we work with Matt and the HAT team. We work with Melissa and Ram House. We do pop-up clinics all over. We're working with a group of folks right now on Williamson Road, just to take our services out in that corridor as well. And so just really trying to meet people directly where they are, provide that basic medical care. We build relationships. We build trust. Next step is often to get them to come into our clinic and maybe be seen by a doctor, provider right there in the clinic, or a mental health professional there in the clinic, and then get them connected to our shelter or another place to get them off the street into a safe place. Right. And so that has been instrumental. But our clinic is beautiful. It provides medical care, just like urgent care setting, like you might expect if you went into an urgent care.
It's been a few years since I've toured, but it was beautiful then. So I can't imagine. I mean, that was probably 4 or 5 years ago. So at this point, it's gotten even bigger.
Yeah, and dedicated spaces for counseling, for mental health, but also vision care. We have equipment to do eye exams. We have eyeglass frames ready to go. We have a dental area. And all of it primarily staffed by volunteers. And so if you're listening today and you want to help, we need doctors, we need dentists, we need nurses who are willing to come and volunteer an hour or two, once a month, once a week, once a quarter, whatever you can give, we need your help. And honestly, that's really how the Rescue Mission functions and stays open around the clock, is through the help of our volunteers who work so tirelessly to make sure that we're there.
Well, thank you to the volunteers and the physicians and nurses and dentists and everybody else who are taking part in that and helping the community in their way. I mean, that's really what a hopeful thing in my heart to feel right now, because those people are taking time out of their day to help others.
It's absolutely. We saw some of our areas during the pandemic where volunteers cut back, but in the clinic, they never stopped. They actually ramped up their hours, which was incredible. And I'm so grateful for that.
And during a crisis too. I mean, we really haven't touched on, it's 2023 and, it feels like the pandemic was so long ago, but it wasn't. You're still dealing with the aftermath of a lot of that. Do you feel, was your space more crowded during that time? Or?
It was such an interesting season. I mean, it wasn't anything any of us could have predicted in any kind of way. What we saw was within the shelters, the numbers within the shelters sort of stabilized. There wasn't as much turnover because evictions halted. And so during the height of the pandemic, there weren't as many people coming in every night. We were averaging about 150 people a night. So today, 250. So our numbers are up dramatically today. But what we saw was just that stabilization. So we didn't have as many new people coming in, but people normally that would be leaving into affordable housing weren't able to move out because there was no affordable housing to move out to. And so there was just this period where everything sort of went on hold, but we had to work so tirelessly to keep everybody healthy. And so just ensuring that if we had a case of COVID, that it didn't spread throughout the whole shelter and shut us down.
Really tough. I mean,
it was very tough.
Yeah.
We went from March when the pandemic was announced until September before we had our first case. So we were so blessed that we were able to keep people safe. And so we were creative. We put in hand washing stations in every place we could think of. At every entry, we had hand sanitizer everywhere, mask for everyone. Our medical providers through the clinic were routinely just meeting with people all the time to keep everybody safe. If we had a case, we were able to be on top of it right away and get that person out of the general shelter into a segregated area so they would be safe and not spread that to others. And so just all those things to have to really think through and work through. But today what we're seeing is just in the height of the pandemic, you continue to see the increase in terms of addiction and mental illness. And so we're seeing some of the sickest people we've ever seen in terms of the issues that they're struggling with.
That's, not interesting in the, interesting way, but like the fact that that's on the rise and that you're seeing that more in your shelter. It's interesting. So another thing that listeners might not know about, Second Helpings is one of my favorite little spots. It's a great spot for lunch.
Oh, that's
cool stuff to find. I love it. Tell me a little bit about that.
You know what? We have two retail stores. We have one there at Second Helpings, which is at Williamson Road, there where the Department of Social Services is, right beyond the Berglund Center. And then another out 460 on King Street. It's called Thrift. And those two stores are pretty amazing. We have wonderful partners and donors in the community who give furniture and china and linen and clothing that is gently used. And we're able to turn those things that maybe is sitting around your house that you don't have a lot of use for into food and shelter and clothing and medical care for people in crisis. Right now, our two stores provide for about a third of our annual operating budget, which is pretty powerful. Yeah. And not only that, but we give away literally thousands of items. So when a person comes in and needs a coat or clothing, shoes, socks, whatever, that's the first priority. Those individuals who need the help, they get it first. And then items are going to the store to be sold. And even we partner with folks in the community. Maybe it's another nonprofit that's doing good work. And if they see someone who needs clothes, they refer them to us and we make sure they get the clothing that they need.
That sounds like a great way for the public to contribute and help out.
It's absolutely amazing. And then when somebody moves into their own apartment, we outfit the apartment for them. So we make sure they get a kitchen table and chairs and pots and pans and all the things they need to get started.
That stuff's expensive.
It is. It is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's fantastic. So actually the Rescue Mission, you touched on this a little earlier, but they have a policy that allows anyone, not just their guests, to stop in and eat. It's to help build community relations. It's a wonderful idea not to only make people aware, but to engage with your guests. Can you share a little bit more about that?
It is. 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner are open to the public, to anybody who's hungry to come in and eat with us. And we regularly see folks who maybe live around the mission somewhere in Southeast and they'll walk over and have lunch with us, or maybe they'll stop by and drive in, or just the folks who are spending the night in shelter already that would take advantage of those 3 meals a day. And they're delicious meals and pretty amazing. Our team of volunteers and paid staff work tirelessly to ensure the quality and make sure everybody's fed.
Yeah, I love seeing the social media posts of all the groups, especially when it's like high schoolers and learning how to help out and contribute to the community. That's super fun. And they're always in the kitchen. They always look like they're having fun.
That's a great place to start volunteering.
No, they look great. So we touched a little bit before we got started. Melissa at Ram House was talking about how a lot of her participation in volunteers and donations comes from interfaith. And so I was curious about people who are seeking your resources and help. It's open to anybody.
Absolutely. The Rescue Mission is a Christian organization. That's who we are. Our faith in Christ is an important component of why we do what we do, but everyone is welcome. There is no need to make a certain statement of faith or to think a certain way or believe a certain way to come in for resources and help. We're there for everyone. We want to shower you with love and attention and get you to the help that you need, and just move out of the crisis. And we do it all in Christ's name, but everyone is welcome.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. I wouldn't want anyone to assume that they're not welcome there because they don't maybe share the exact faith. So I think that's a really important thing to know.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So the last thing we're going to do is shine a light on your volunteers and your staff. Talk about them.
Oh, my goodness. So again, I already talked about how we're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we have folks who are just tireless. We have individuals who come almost every weekday, like at 4:30 in the morning, to help serve breakfast.
In the morning?
In the morning.
Oh,
so they're there. That's their first.
Angels.
They do it before going to their normal day job. They come in, they serve breakfast, and then they just, I think, you know what? I really believe they feel blessed as well as they're blessing others through their service. And so there's everything from that individual that comes once a week to serve breakfast to maybe somebody who comes once a year and volunteers with the drumstick dash. But over a whole year, we might have 5,000 different volunteers, and we're so, so grateful. Wow. The volunteers are the lifeblood of the Rescue Mission. And then our staff. I cannot think of a more dedicated group of people. We had a period of time, just like many organizations, where we were understaffed for a little while there during the height of the pandemic, and we were working hard to fill positions. And the staff who were on duty worked tirelessly to be sure that everything stayed open, everything kept running, that we never missed a beat.
I mean, that is so much work.
It is so much work.
A good work, but work.
Yeah. And, we just try to think about how do we take care of our staff? How do we ensure that they are just encouraged and that they have the resources they need? We've really launched a focus on training for our team. Everything from trauma-informed care, just really helping them understand the traumas that people have lived through as they deal with being unsheltered and homeless, to what they might be struggling with addiction, making sure that our staff is equipped to really understand how to best meet people where they are. So there's mental health first aid and trauma-informed care and just de-escalation during a crisis, all those kinds of things that we have to think about in the work that we do to ensure that we're ready for no matter what.
It's easy to see the passion light up in your eyes because you clearly care so much about the organization, the people in it, everybody who's got a part to play in that. And so I was wondering if there was, anything else you wanted to think about or really want our listeners to know about the Rescue Mission or just the mission in general.
Well, where you started was a great place to kind of wrap up, because when you think about that, it's not black and white, that everyone has a different story. We just invite our community to come alongside us, come help us. We don't do this alone. Melissa's talked about how we work together at Ram House. We talked about Matt and the homeless assistance team. There are so many of us that are working hard in this space, and we realize that none of us do it by ourselves, and that if you're listening today and you're thinking, gosh, I'd kind of like to help. I'd like to get involved in some way. Please check out rescuemission.net, which is our website. There's a link on there to volunteer. It lists all the volunteer opportunities. And you might look in there and see, well, that's not exactly what I'm thinking about. We had somebody today who's coming in to volunteer for the first time who has an industrial engineering background. She's a recent grad, gotten her master's degree, and she wants to get involved in work like ours. And so she came and said, I'd like to volunteer a few hours. And so she's helping us literally take our aftercare program, which follows people after they've successfully moved out and ensures they continue to stay stable and stay in their housing. She's helping us look at that process and figure out how can we do that better.
It's interesting, using their skill sets.
Using their skill set. So if you're listening and you've got a particular skill set, You might be a painter. You might be creative. You might be an artist. You might be somebody, an accountant, whoever it might be. Please come help us. We need your help. We'll find a place to plug you in and get you going to really get to personally hear some of these stories and meet people who are struggling. And again, just see they're people just like us.
I love it. And so it's not just the Drumstick Dash, although that is one of my
That is
favorite
amazing.
events of the year. I mean, and all that money really benefits you. I mean, I know you're not relying on that all year round, but that's a lovely chunk of money to be able to know is coming to help those.
It is. It's one of the most beautiful things in the world to be out on Thanksgiving morning and see just this mass of people out across the streets of downtown Roanoke running or walking together, a sense of community and relationship. And that's what we're all about, building a sense of community and relationship that empowers our community to be better.
That's awesome. And if you want a twist, you could always go to Angels of Assisi and walk some of their adoptable dogs, because I've definitely done that a few years in a row.
Could.
Well, thank you. If there's anything else you'd like to add, we're happy to feature that.
I think just, again, think about the work of the Rescue Mission that never closes, and the fact that every gift counts. We talked a lot about volunteering, but also financial support is needed. So if you'd like to help us out in some way, everything from $5 a month to $50,000 a year, whatever you can do, we need your help. And every dollar works together to make this work possible.
Perfect. Plenty of ways to donate, participate, help, volunteer, maybe work on some people with their teeth if you're a physician or dentist and want to participate there. Thank you so much for being on our show today. We really appreciate it, Lee.
Oh, it's good to be here.
Thank you. All right, listeners, that was Lee Clark, CEO of the Roanoke Rescue Mission, working very hard to help those in need right here in our community. You can learn more about the organization, including how you can help and more at rescuemission.net.